In the setting of Swallowed Star, a cultivator's life gene level only undergoes qualitative leaps during major breakthroughs in cultivation levels. For instance, progressing from apprentice level to planetary level, or from planetary level to stellar level, and each of these significant breakthroughs may be accompanied by a leap in the level of life genes. However, such opportunities are limited, which is at most 5 times in a lifetime. Even using bloodline evolution agents can only improve one's cultivation aptitude, they cannot directly cause a qualitative change in one's life gene level. So here's the question, why was Luo Feng able to achieve life-level evolution through cultivation, relying on a secret manual left behind by a powerful being? Before answering that, let's first understand what cultivation aptitude is. Cultivation aptitude refers to the innate qualities of a cultivator, including bloodline, physique, physical strength, and base-level spiritual power. Many human lineages, due to overly ordinary bloodlines, find it difficult even to begin cultivating, or they may be halted in their path due to limited aptitude, never able to break through in their lifetime. Bloodline evolution agents function by optimizing these innate conditions. Though they can't directly help a cultivator break through, they act like a window which revealing the potential of higher levels within the bloodline, allowing the bloodline to know that there are higher levels to reach. Imagine if the bloodline couldn't even perceive the next tier, then how could one possibly break through? Of course, superior aptitude only gives one a better starting point. It doesn't guarantee how far one can go. A cultivator's eventual achievement largely depends on their cultivation talent. Cultivation talent determines a person's comprehension ability, their capacity to understand laws, their adaptability in combat, and their potential to break through bottlenecks. We could say that aptitude affects early development, while talent determines whether one can truly reach the pinnacle later on. Luo Feng, through that secret manual left by a mighty being, not only gradually awakened his dormant bloodline during his cultivation journey, but also allowed his life gene level to autonomously evolve like the universal laws themselves, which ultimately achieving an extraordinary leap beyond convention. So why was this secret manual able to break the common rules of cultivation? The answer lies within the vast world Luo Feng inhabited, known as the Origin World. In the Origin World, there exist 9 original laws of Great Tao, which are the supreme rules that govern the operation of the entire universe. Among these are the Great Tao of Life and the Great Tao of Matter. The Great Tao of Life governs the essence of all life, determining the basic form of genetic structure and making cells the fundamental unit of life. It also established an inviolable supreme rule where only when a cultivator undergoes a major breakthrough in level will their life gene level leap. This law is an unshakable universal truth and no one can defy it. Therefore, whether one is a world master, an immortal, or even a lofty universe venerable, a 100-fold life gene level is the ultimate limit. This ceiling was set by the Great Tao of Life and cannot be casually surpassed. As for matter, it governs the final form of all things. It determines the limits of things, from softness to hardness, from small to enormous. It not only relates to the types of objects, but more profoundly affects their essential structure. Thus, it defines the fundamental differences in size, strength, and density among all existences, whether living or non-living. In the setting of Swallowed Star, the Great Tao of Matter and the Great Tao of Life are both among the 9 supreme original laws, and as such, they do not permit lifeforms in the original universe or even throughout the entire universe ocean to glimpse their essence. Because of this, the secret manual left behind by Sitting Mountain Guest is not only incredibly rare but also defies the heavens, as its contents reveal how to break through the barrier set by the Great Tao of Life, allowing one's life gene level to reach the perfect stage before achieving the level of immortality, even surpassing the limit of 100-fold genetic enhancement. However, this method of cultivation, which defies the supreme rules, naturally comes with an astonishing cost. First of all, it cannot be passed down through traditional means. In the original universe, no lifeform can actively perceive the essence of the original laws. Once cultivation content touches upon these supreme rules, it is subject to strict restrictions. Not only can it not be taught verbally, but even spiritual communication cannot convey it. As a result, Sitting Mountain Guest could only use a special metal to inscribe the contents of the secret manual in a highly concealed way. Even more troublesome, due to the suppression of the supreme laws, this secret manual can only be cultivated by one person in their lifetime. In other words, once Luo Feng begins to comprehend this manual, even if he personally hands it to Hong or Lei Shen, they would be unable to read a single word unless Luo Feng dies completely. This is because, if the cultivator of the manual dies, even if they are resurrected by reversing time and space, all memories related to the secret manual will be completely erased by the supreme laws. Only then will the manual be unsealed again, and another cultivator will gain the sole qualification to train in it. Moreover, the cultivation process for this manual allows absolutely no mistakes. A single error in any detail would cause the cultivator's body to collapse instantly, reduced to dust. This is because, to achieve a leap in life gene level, the cultivator must perfectly integrate spiritual and genetic energy into every cell of their body, maintaining a three-way balance with the cell itself. Once that balance is broken, life will end instantly. This also explains why only Luo Feng's golden horned beast and earthling bodies were seen training in the manual, while the Masha clan clone never did. The reason is simple: the Masha clan is a life form composed of energy, essentially lacking a soul, and therefore incapable of forming the kind of fusion needed for a genetic leap. And because this manual violates the established rules of the supreme laws, the difficulty of cultivation far exceeds the norm. Even a slight deviation in the process can cause the cellular material structure to collapse instantly, resulting in unavoidable death. This extreme cost means that the manual is almost only suitable for cultivators who possess multiple bodies. Otherwise, a single failure would mean complete annihilation. This may very well be the true reason Sitting Mountain Guest deliberately placed the golden horned beast's egg on Earth. One must understand, the spatial coordinates of the solar system and surrounding galaxies had long been concealed by Huyen Bo through secret spatial techniques. Without prior arrangements, it would be nearly impossible for a dying golden horned beast to just happen to pass by the solar system and compress all its remaining energy into an egg and place it on Earth. The odds of such an event are virtually zero. Let's not forget, the only reason the golden horned beast condensed all its power into an egg was because it had reached the end of its life and still couldn't break through to the immortal level where this was its last hope of passing on its bloodline. And for a world master level golden horned beast, one with mastery over the original law of space that even exceeded Huyen Bo's, to appear near the solar system at that exact moment, such a coincidence is simply too improbable. So now you might be wondering, Sitting Mountain Guest was only at the true God level, and came from the beginning universe, so how could he create a secret technique that violates the supreme laws? The truth is, Sitting Mountain Guest's true heritage is far from simple, because in his past life, he was a God King. A God King is a transcendent existence above the level of true God, at least 3 major realms higher. In the eyes of a God King, a true God is no more than an ant, one that can be wiped from existence with a single breath. More importantly, God Kings possess the ability to reincarnate with complete memory. These memories don't just contain their past experiences, but also seal away countless cultivation techniques and profound insights into the Great Tao. This means, if Sitting Mountain Guest wished, he could easily reclaim his status as a God King in a short period of time. Among the many God Kings, most typically only grasp a portion of the original law of a certain path in Great Tao, but even that partial understanding is enough to evolve the operating principles of an entire universe, which forcing even the supreme rules to retreat. Therefore, for a God King, creating a slightly unconventional cultivation manual specifically for a practitioner below the world master level is by no means a difficult task. What's more, if the God King happens to have mastered the great Tao of life itself, then he would even possess the terrifying ability to awaken life. This so-called awakening refers to the act of forcibly infusing vast and boundless life origin energy into a target using the power of the great Tao of life, thereby enabling them to undergo a qualitative transformation in a very short time. For example, under the awakening of a God King, a true God could instantly break through to eternal true God, primal chaos sovereign, or even the God King level. However, this awakening does not come without risk. Not all life forms can bear such immense life origin energy. If the burden is too great, the target's body might rupture, and their soul be annihilated, failing not only to awaken but perishing entirely. Of course, the success of such awakening ultimately depends on the skill and control of the one performing it, the God King. From another perspective, for a God King capable of awakening life, helping a practitioner below the world master level break conventional limits and surpass the constraints of life gene levels is hardly a challenge. That said, although Sitting Mountain Guest is a reincarnated God King, he is not considered a powerful one among God Kings. It's even uncertain whether he truly possesses the ability to awaken life. Even so, crafting a non-traditional cultivation method tailored to a being who has not yet stepped into immortality is still well within his capabilities. Although life gene level is closely tied to the Great Tao of life, in the vast system of original laws of Great Tao, the one Sitting Mountain Guest cultivates might not necessarily be the Great Tao of life. There are 2 reasons for this. First, the origin of the universe and the original universe contains the complete Great Tao of life.
Any cultivator whose willpower reaches the God-King level gains the qualification to attempt possession of the original universe. If successful, their willpower aligns with the universe's origin, giving them the chance to comprehend the great Tao of life. This is a supreme opportunity bestowed by the supreme rules upon practitioners of the original universe. However, Sitting Mountain Guest chose to give this opportunity to Luo Feng. The reason is simple: he believed it wouldn't help him much. From this, we can infer that the great Tao of life is not his primary path of cultivation. While this judgment isn't absolute, it is supported by evidence. After all, Sitting Mountain Guest never intended to cultivate forever as a being of the original universe. He simply awaited the day when Luo Feng would grow to his expectations, at which point he would once again perform the reincarnation technique and return to the origin continent, a place free from the constraints of the original universe's will. Once he loses his identity as a being of the original universe, he also loses the qualification to seize its origin. Therefore, for Sitting Mountain Guest, this opportunity was of little value, where it is better to pass it on to someone more suitable. This might raise the question: why was Sitting Mountain Guest so willing to forego such a grand opportunity? The truth is, Sitting Mountain Guest was originally a native of the origin continent. The so-called reincarnation technique is not uncommon there. Almost all primal chaos sovereigns and god kings can perform it. However, to reincarnate with memory intact, one must possess a sufficiently powerful will. Only a will at the peak of the primal chaos sovereign's level allows for memory retention during reincarnation. And to clearly retain complete past life memories from the moment of birth, one must possess the will of a god king. Among this group of powerful beings, there are typically two main reasons why they would willingly abandon all their cultivation and start over. One is to sever karmic ties, conceal their identity, and avoid detection by enemies. The other is that, in their early years of cultivation, due to a lack of profound inheritance and relying solely on self-exploration, their path deviated and became flawed, ultimately hindering their progress. Therefore, they choose to start anew in hopes of correcting past mistakes and reconstructing a more complete path. However, if one were to reincarnate into the primitive universe while retaining memories from origin continent, many cultivation methods would be suppressed by the will of the universe origin itself, making it difficult to achieve the desired effects and imposing numerous limitations. In such a case, it would be far more beneficial to reincarnate and cultivate anew within origin continent. This is precisely why Sitting Mountain Guest was willing to give up the opportunity to possess the original universe to Luo Feng, because to him, this opportunity held little significance, offering neither breakthrough potential nor meaningful change to his cultivation path. Of course, we cannot completely rule out the possibility that Sitting Mountain Guest once attempted to comprehend the original law of great Tao of life from the origin universe. However, based on his level of comprehension, his understanding would have been extremely limited, making it difficult to gain any deep insight, and thus, eventually, it lost its value. Judging by all signs, Sitting Mountain Guest did not achieve a high level of mastery in the great Tao of life. Compared to Luo Feng's future achievements in this path, his attainments were clearly rough and vastly inferior. Another reason to infer that Sitting Mountain Guest did not primarily cultivate the great Tao of life, but instead mastered part of the great Tao of matter, lies in the nature of the cultivation method he created, a method capable of advancing the genetic level of life ahead of its time. At its core, this method relies on reshaping the material structure, essentially reconstructing life's genetic architecture from deep within the cellular level, gradually pushing it toward a higher form, and ultimately elevating the entire life gene level. This method strongly suggests that Sitting Mountain Guest's foundational understanding leaned more toward matter than life. This influence subtly shaped Luo Feng as well. In his own cultivation, he was deeply immersed in this system and ultimately developed a perfect divine body through his understanding of the great Tao of matter, and eventually becoming an existence powerful enough to rival both the original universe and the perfect life form of Sector Beast. This is also why, in this video, I not only discussed the great Tao of life but also deliberately shared insights into the great Tao of matter. Nonetheless, Luo Feng himself did not delve deeply into the great Tao of matter, rather, he leaned more toward fusing the laws of life and destruction, from which he birthed his own unique fusion original law of great Tao. It's worth mentioning that god kings who cultivate the great Tao of life almost always possess incredibly powerful survival capabilities. As their cultivation progresses, they can continuously split off clones with independent existence. Even if their main body dies, they can continue to exist through these clones. Therefore, even after Luo Feng lost the body of the golden horned beast upon becoming a true god, as long as his comprehension of the great Tao of life was deep enough, he could continually generate new clones. Beings like this are nearly impossible to truly eradicate.
If not slain in a single blow, they often become a source of endless vengeance. For this reason, even the strongest of foes often hesitate to provoke those who cultivate the great Tao of life.
In contrast, Sitting Mountain Guest's life-preserving methods were clearly much weaker. He never demonstrated the ability to split off multiple clones nor showed strong regenerative powers. All these signs suggest that he never truly mastered the great Tao of life. At most, he dabbled in it without grasping its core. From this, we can also infer that the secret manual he created to promote life gene-level evolution was more likely based on his understanding of the great Tao of matter, rather than any profound mastery of the great Tao of life. What are your thoughts on this? Feel free to share them in the comments section below. Well, that's all for this video. Thanks for watching this video. Wish you a wonderful day.